Welcome to the Monetize Your Payments podcast, where we cover the entire payment facilitator ecosystem. If you are a SaaS company, ISV, or a marketplace interested in monetizing your payments, this podcast is for you. You will learn what it takes to monetize your payments, as well as find the vendors, suppliers, and organizations that will help you succeed. You are going to hear success stories, lessons learned, and advice from all sides and all angles across the payment facilitator ecosystem.
Being a payment facilitator is really about controlling your destiny. When we think about all the players in the payments ecosystem, the way it was designed, the closer you are to the networks, the more control you're going to have. So Fenix really enables companies to remove some of the layers of the ecosystem, or as we like to call it, the payments layer cake, so they can achieve their business goals.
That was Angie Amen, the Vice President of Professional Services at Finix, and this is episode 2 of the Monetize Your Payments podcast. I'm your host, Greg Myers. Angie is a Midwesterner and grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and went to school at Miami of Ohio. She spent many years at Vantiv Worldpay and what is now FIS, helping to build out their payment facilitator model. She joined Fenix about a year ago to lead Fenix Professional Services. Their goal is to help companies define their payment strategy and then execute on it. Education is the core of what the professional services team at Fenix does. Fenix is a payments infrastructure company that helps various other companies integrate payments into their solution and often becoming a payment facilitator. In this episode, we talk about what differentiates Fenix in the marketplace, as well as some of the keys to success and pain points that companies run into when becoming a payments company. We've got a great episode this week, so let's get started. Hi, Angie. Thanks for being here today, and welcome to the Monetize Your Payments podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Happy to be here.
Good. Well, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from, where you grew up, went to school, maybe a few things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So a Midwestern girl here. So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, currently actually living in Kentucky. A lot of people actually don't know the Cincinnati airport is in Kentucky. So live actually pretty close to downtown Cincinnati, went to school just up the road at Miami of Ohio. And also like to say I grew up in payments here. The majority of my career has been spent at Vantiv Worldpay, now FIS. So they're just up the road from here for their headquarters, or their previous headquarters, I guess, before FIS.
Right. So today you're the VP of Professional Services at Fenix. So talk about your role and responsibilities there.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined Fenix formally about a year ago now, just over a year ago, actually. So I've been in the payment space for quite some time now, about 15 years. As I mentioned just earlier, at Vantiv, WorldPay, where myself and a few other Phoenicians actually helped build out and develop the payment facilitator model. So from a payment space, the majority of my career has been specialized in payment facilitation. And when I was spending time at Vantiv and WorldPay, building out the payment facilitator model, we would notice that it would take even the best technology companies 24 months to become payments companies. So that was quite a long time for us, right? To be able to make that transition. So created an education consulting firm about 5 years ago called Fintech 513 to really solve for that problem, right? How do we take experts in this industry and educate companies to become payments companies? Had worked really closely with the Finix team over the last 4 years, and the Fintech 513 team formally joined Finix last August. So to create Finix Professional Services. And the kind of the heart of what we do is we want to help technology companies define their payment strategy and then execute on that strategy. The team has decades of payments experience, so we really want to leverage that experience to educate our clients or even prospective clients on what does it mean to be a payments company. And so we have specializations in risk, compliance, PCI, legal, business operations, technical. The team has decades of experience expanding from, all angles of the payments ecosystem. So both the acquirer level, network levels, actually being a payment facilitator. So we can really empathize with our customers on this journey of becoming payments companies. So that's what we'd like to support our clients with as the professional services team here.
Okay. And I assume you're very hands-on with the clients from the consulting and education side, right?
Absolutely. Education is the core of what we do. We really want our partners, our customers to understand this payments ecosystem and the journey that they're going on and what their roles and responsibilities are. So being able to share our knowledge with them to help them, maybe avoid some mishaps, move a little faster, right, is really important to us. And we spend a lot of hands-on time, really kind of that white glove, if you will, right, hand-holding someone on this journey of becoming a payments company.
Okay, great. So tell our audience exactly what Fenix does holistically.
Absolutely. We are a payments infrastructure company, right? So we want to provide rails for businesses to, embed payments into their infrastructure and really create a custom experience that they want, right, for their business. We look at it as a kind of an end-to-end infrastructure company where they can build all sorts of workflows on top of our APIs to achieve their business goals and outcomes.
Okay. And then are there certain markets that you serve?
I think what's unique about Fenix is we're able to serve really across the payments landscape, right? So we can serve technology companies, software companies, we can support acquirers, we can support processors, we can support networks. So one of the things that I think really makes our infrastructure unique is that we can go up and down the payment stack to be able to support any player in this ecosystem.
Okay. And I recently saw where you launched something called Finix Flex. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, we're really excited about Flex. At a high level, it's really about future-proofing your payment strategy. We saw that there are challenges, right? It takes a lot of work to become a payments company, or can take a lot of work, right? And we call it this graduation problem. You have companies that can support you early on in your payments journey where you don't own any of the payments experience. And then to move all the way up the kind of the payment stack to becoming an acquirer, or partnering with an acquirer and becoming a payment facilitator, that's actually a pretty big jump. And so we wanted to be able to support people and companies at all stages of that journey. And that's what we believe Flex is able to do, right? So whether you're just starting out on your payments journey, a little bit more mature, or really close to becoming a payments facilitator, Flex is something that's going to enable you to do that faster and really kind of walk as you then jog and then run into your payments strategy.
Okay, great. So let's assume we have members of the audience who are really new to payments. Say they're a software company, maybe a SaaS business, ISV, marketplace, but they're very new to payments and they hear the word payment facilitator. How do you define what it means to be a payment facilitator?
Well, first off, one of my favorite groups of people to work with, people who are new to the payment space. So we as we mentioned, love to educate people in this space. And when we want to think about what is a payment facilitator, I think that's a great question. On the surface, a lot of people might respond that it's defined as taking on risk, controlling the money flow, being able to instantly onboard merchants. And while that might be operationally true, things that you could choose to do, to me, being a payment facilitator is really about controlling your destiny. When we think about all the players in the payments ecosystem, the way it was designed, the closer you are to the networks, the more control you're going to have. So Fenix really enables companies to remove some of the layers of the ecosystem, or as we like to call it, the payments layer cake, right? So they can achieve their business goals.
Okay, great. And if you're a software company as an example and you want to become that, you want to go down that journey, why would you want to do that? What are the advantages of being a payment facilitator?
Yeah, I think there's lots of advantages to becoming a payment facilitator. At the highest of levels, I say there's really kind of three main reasons why someone would become a payments company. One is to own that user experience, control, what your customers experience when they're interacting with you instead of having to interact with a third party, or increasing your revenue streams by removing some of the pieces of that layer cake or people that play in the ecosystem. You typically can see an increase in revenue. And a third reason would be to, what is your exit strategy? What is your end game? Seeing maybe higher valuations when you become a payments company. So those are sometimes at a high level why someone considers this model. If those things are important to you, you should consider this model. But a lot of times, my response to that question is, why should someone become a payment facilitator? And I really like to, when I'm talking to clients, ask them, I don't know, you tell me what problems you're trying to solve for. What is important to your business? What goals do you want to achieve? And then I can help you, define does payment facilitation solve those for you or not? Making sure you have a really strong payments vision and payment strategy. There's lots of other models out there, or a few other models out there besides payment facilitation. And so we just want to make sure that you find the right fit for you in order to make sure you're achieving the goals that you want to achieve.
Okay. And I'm using payment facilitator in air quotes here. There is a definition, right? You can apply to be one with the card brands. Is that true?
Absolutely. So payment facilitation is a defined term by both Visa and MasterCard. Previous names used to be, a payment service provider or whatnot, but now both brands are aligned and it is a registration process. So you do have to be approved by an acquiring bank to be a payment facilitator and then registered as such. They will register you with the card brands as one.
Okay. That sounds kind of scary, but I assume it's not too bad.
Well, it's all part of the noise that's in the ecosystem, right? Without the right partners or without the right understanding of what that means to be a payment facilitator, it can be scary, but it is something that is manageable through education and technology like ours in order to make that a very manageable process to get you through the underwriting process with that acquirer, right? And become that payment facilitator.
Right. So I think we've laid the foundation sort of what a payment facilitator is and the value of it. Let's talk now a little more about Fenix and what differentiates you guys in the market versus your competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's really three things, in my opinion, that really differentiate Fenix from what others do. We look at ourselves as an end-to-end technology infrastructure. So we're there to support, money in and money out, that full circle of money flow. And then we also allow companies to design really unique workflows on top of our APIs. So how do you want to operate your business? One thing that we've seen is almost every payment facilitator wants things slightly different, right? For a variety of very valid reasons. So we want to be able to help them make as much customizations to their process that they would like. And then finally, we're actually not here to put you in a box, so to speak, right? We are big fans of the payment facilitator model, but we're also some of the first to say it might not be the right fit for you, right? So making sure that you understand your desired business outcomes so then you can future-proof your strategy between Flex and our core offering of becoming a full payment facilitator is how we feel that we really differentiate ourselves from others in the market.
Okay, great. So what would you say are some of the keys to success for a company that wants to be or wants to monetize their payments? What would be some of the things that you think they need to understand and do well that would really be the keys to it actually working and them being happy and successful?
Great question. I think there's several things that someone can do to set themselves up for success. First and foremost, having a really strong payment strategy. What problems are you solving for? What are your visions? What are your goals for your business? And making sure that you understand each one of the business models and how they're going to help you execute on that strategy. Another, I think, big area of success is education. We touched on it earlier. There's lots of what I like to call noise in the market. Terms are interchangeable sometimes. An example of that might be that you might think payment facilitation is right for you, but you can search it or talk to your friend that's in the payments business that might not understand the model and say that, well, as a payment facilitator, you're taking on risk, and that's a really scary thing to do. Or now it's such a popular model, you can Google payment facilitation and it feels like everyone's supporting it now, which really, when you start to kind of peel back that onion layer, it's really not that accurate, right? There's really only a few players that truly support this model. And so it is hard to educate yourself on what makes sense for you. What is the right model? What do these things mean? So that's a big part of, I think, having a successful payment strategy is the education. And then finally, just having an execution plan. Once you kind of understand your strategy, educate yourself, you want to be able to put all the right resources in place towards an execution of becoming a payments company. And that doesn't necessarily mean having a huge team or having to build out a lot of employees or new roles. Having the right team in place is really important in order to monetize your payments.
Okay. Let's talk now. We covered the success and the positive. Let's talk about the pain points. What pain points do companies run into when they're trying to integrate payments?
Oh, lots of them. Let me count the ways, right, Greg? But seriously, I think when I think about this, the pain points, I can really narrow them down to a couple of different areas. And one of those is believing that there's a out-of-the-box solution or a one-size-fits-all. Everyone is really unique in what they want to accomplish from payments. And so there's not necessarily going to be a one-stop shop for everything that you're looking for, right? You can get really close, but I think kind of thinking about only having one solution sometimes makes it a little bit more challenging. And then also, I always like to say not understanding the importance that your business partners play in this for you. So take, an acquiring bank for an example. They, I think, can make the argument, they're a very important player in the success of your payments strategy and your payments infrastructure, and understanding the role that they play and treating them, as that partner, I think will really help you when you go to execute that strategy, right? Because they are kind of that main gatekeeper. They are the ones that are going to be sponsoring you to the card networks as a payment facilitator. So they play a really key role. But I also like to say, making sure when you enter this, when you become a payments company, really understanding and giving the ecosystem the respect that it deserves. Money is emotional. It's people's livelihoods. And there are a lot of rules and responsibilities that come into becoming or entering this ecosystem, right? We want to keep the integrity of that ecosystem. So when you keep those things in mind, you're going to appreciate the players and the challenges that you might face when you become a payments company a little bit more, because you're understanding that you play an important role in the movement of money. And I think that having that right mindset really helps people overcome those pain points.
Okay, you brought up something I want to dig a little deeper in, and that's partners. So obviously Fenix comes in as a partner and helps do a lot of the things and educate, and then has, a lot of the technology. But beyond that, and beyond an acquirer or someone that sponsors you, what other type of partnerships are there, legal or risk, or other types of partnerships that a software company or someone looking to monetize payments needs to think about?
Yeah, I think there's lots of partnerships. It's how much, a lot of the conversation is always, what do you want to build or buy? When you're building your infrastructure, you'll have different players that are needed to build out a payments infrastructure. So whether that be a Finix, we are a partner, right, that you can choose to partner with on your payments journey, taking some of the responsibility of the technical build off of your plate, right? There is the consulting side of things, right? So the education. So, when you're working with developing risk and underwriting procedures, right? Are you working with someone that's done that before? Do you need third parties to help provide you the tools to actually do that underwriting? So there are a list of vendors that you would need to evaluate to determine, do you want to partner with them or do you want to, build some of these things out on your own? And what we're finding is that many people want to partner. They're not wanting to necessarily reinvent the wheel when it comes to some of the infrastructure from a payments perspective. So there's lots of good companies out there to partner with to help you along this payments journey and to achieve your payments goals.
Right. You mentioned one other thing about having to hire employees or potentially having to hire employees. Maybe touch on what that maybe typically looks like. Coming from this, I sort of have heard everything from, hey, you've got to make sure you have payments expertise in-house, and that means hiring people, but does that mean a person or does that mean a team of people? Maybe touch on that whole aspect of it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say it depends. It depends on several factors. Are you a vertically focused software company? Or are you more of a diversified software company where anybody and everybody could use your platform, right? How many merchants do you board in a typical time period, like a month or every week, right? Are you boarding, a few merchants, but very large merchants? Or do you board several merchants, a day, right? All of those things will come into play in understanding how many people that you need to bring in to be a part of your payments team. Also is how much of the technology do you want to automate versus be manual, right? There are lots of ways that you can work through the technology hurdles of becoming a payments company. Some of them are more manual or some of them are more automated. So depending on what business choices you're going to make in the technology infrastructure stack as well will come into play on how many people you may need to bring onto your team. But really, and what we're seeing is vertically focused software companies, the risk is relatively low. You're able to automate with on top of our APIs. And so we're seeing that you may not need a very large team. You might be able to do it with a lot of the team members you have in place today. We're just repurposing their role from an operations standpoint and a support standpoint. So I think it's less than, a lot of times what you might think it would be when you're just first glancing at what does it mean to be a payments company. But assuming, you're vertically focused, you're leveraging automation tools, you'll be able to get away with going to market with, a few people needed to support your payments model.
Okay, great. You've used the word journey a couple of times, and I want to explore that a little. So let's say a software company comes to Fenix and they're ready to talk about becoming a payments company. What does that journey with Fenix look like?
Yeah, thanks for asking. That's a fun question for me. And so it really depends on what stage they're coming at, to us. Some have a well-defined payment strategy and are ready to execute to become a full payment facilitator. Some are trying to understand what does it mean to partner with an ISO, right? Or become a payment facilitator. And is that right for me? And some know that they want to become a payment facilitator and also know that they're not quite ready to take on those responsibilities or put the development resources into the execution. So we'll first understand, where they're at in their thought process and the creation of their strategy. From there, we'll, help them either develop that strategy or validate some of their business assumptions to get them to the point where they're ready to execute. And from there, Finix really believes in being a hands-on company when you're supporting someone becoming a payments company. It can be hard, right? These are new things that you might be doing for the very first time. So all of our customers and partners will receive dedicated management support through the onboarding phase. We'll receive a really in-depth education from, our team members that have done it before, right? And how do you become a payments company? Leveraging the Finix software and really teach their operations team how to do payments operations. So we will really handhold them through that journey. Some want to, or need to be registered, right, as we've talked about, as a payment facilitator. So we will support them in educating them on what does it mean to take on risk, how to underwrite merchants, how do you do that with the tools that we provide, to then hand-holding them through that underwriting process with an acquirer. Some come to us and they are already payment facilitators and are tired of managing their own infrastructure. So they want to leverage our platform to do so. So that is a lot of educating them on how to use our system, right? They've got maybe years of experience of operating as a payments company, and now they're shifting some workflows. So we want to really handhold them through that process. And the same would hold whether it's wanting to go through the full process of becoming a payment facilitator, or our flex clients, right, who want to, get up and running and really kind of future-proof their payment strategy. We're still going to spend a lot of time educating them on their roles and responsibilities, as well as what those would look like in the future.
Okay, great. That was a great answer. Really crystallized kind of the whole conversation. I appreciate that. We've covered a lot of ground about Fenix and about monetizing payments. Any final thoughts you wanted to share?
It's a fun journey to monetizing your payments. There's a lot of benefits to owning your payments experience and in that infrastructure. So I just always like to, really emphasize to make sure that when you're thinking about this journey, take the time to educate yourself, understand who the players are in the ecosystem. And then from there, set your payments goals and your strategy so you can have a clear vision of what you want to create for your company to then be able to really execute on that strategy.
Well, great. Angie, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate everything you've said and shared today. And what would be the best way for people to learn more about Fenix?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, our website and our blog post, finixpayments.com, is a great resource for people. We, as we've mentioned a few times here in this podcast here, we really take pride in educating people as well. So they'll find some great content there on the blog to help support them in this process.
Okay, and what would be the best way to reach you?
Absolutely. Angie at finixpayments.com. So I would love to, certainly help people answer any questions that they may have along this process. Also can find me on, all the social medias as well, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it as well.
Great. And to learn more about the payment facilitator ecosystem and hear more great podcasts like this one, please go to www.monetizeyourpayments.com.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Monetize Your Payments podcast. Make sure you visit our website at monetizeyourpayments.com, where you can subscribe to the show and where you will find our show notes. If you would like to be on the show or have a suggestion for a guest, please email greg@monetizeyourpayments.com.